This video is going to find you exactly 7 days before your life changes forever. And no, this isn't a prediction. It's an activation. There's a secret switch inside your mind. And in the next few seconds, I'm going to show you where it is. Forget everything you think you know about the brain. The proof that your consciousness isn't what it seems lies in an experience that millions of people have already had. General anesthesia. You don't fall asleep. You get switched off. Your sense of self disappears, even though your brain keeps working. What exactly is being shut down? Scientists have discovered that anesthetics don't turn off biology. They interrupt a quantum process in your neurons. That proves one thing. Your consciousness runs on a code that can be hacked. And if it can be turned off, it can also be turned on. Stay with me till the end, because today you're not just going to understand this code. You're going to learn how to rewrite it. If you feel like you're ready for this shift, comment, "The switch has been flipped." Have you ever had that uncomfortable feeling like you're living on autopilot? That deep sense that there's a massive potential inside of you, an enormous mental capacity. But for some reason, you're only able to access a tiny fraction of it. Forget the old story that we only use 10% of our brain. That's a simplistic myth, hiding a much deeper and more unsettling truth. The real mystery isn't about how much we use, but about the nature of what makes us conscious in the first place. And the first clue to unraveling that mystery lies in an experience that millions of people have had, but almost no one has stopped to really think about. Think back to the last time you, or someone you know, had surgery under general anesthesia. It's not like sleeping. Sleep is a state where you dream, where time passes, where your mind still processes information in a chaotic way. General anesthesia is different. It's a blackout. In one moment you're conscious, and in the next you simply cease to exist. No dreams, no sense of time, no you to witness the void. Hours go by in the blink of an eye, and then, as if someone flipped a switch, you're back. Consciousness is restored. What's both fascinating and terrifying about this is that while you were switched off, your brain wasn't. It remained biologically active, keeping your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your vital functions all running smoothly. This forces us to ask the most fundamental question of all. If consciousness isn't just electrical activity in the brain, then what exactly gets turned off? What is that flame that can be snuffed out and reignited without damaging the biological machine? This universal experience is the first crack in the wall of reality we've been taught to accept. We're standing in front of powerful evidence that consciousness isn't just a product of the brain, like smoke from a chimney. It's something much more fundamental, something that interacts with the brain but isn't limited to it. Anesthesia doesn't shut down the brain. It cuts off the connection between the brain and something else. It's like unplugging your Wi-Fi router. The computer still works, but it loses access to the information network that makes it truly useful. Your sense of I, your identity, your experience of being, seems to operate through a connection that can be temporarily suspended. This idea isn't new. Ancient sages and mystics have always spoken of consciousness as something that transcends the physical body. They described it as a light, a divine spark temporarily inhabiting the human vehicle. What's new is that modern science, in its search for answers, is stumbling into the same conclusion. They're discovering that anesthetics don't work in a crude way by simply slowing down the brain. Their action is much more subtle, much more precise, happening at a level our classical physics can barely describe. Researchers have found that these substances act on tiny structures inside your neurons called microtubules, and this is where everything changes. The effect of anesthetics interferes with delicate quantum processes happening within these structures. They're not just turning off a biological circuit. They're collapsing a quantum state. That means your consciousness, your perception of reality, is intrinsically tied to a physical process governed by the bizarre and wonderful laws of the subatomic world. Your mind isn't just biology, it's quantum physics in action. That proves one thing, both terrifying and incredibly empowering. Your consciousness runs on a code that can be hacked. A system that can be interrupted, shut down, and more importantly, turned back on. If a set of molecules can silence your perception of the universe by interfering with this code, that opens a door to an extraordinary possibility. If consciousness can be shut off by an external process, that means it can also be influenced, modulated, and perhaps even expanded by an internal one. If there's a switch to turn it off, there's also one to turn it on. The revelation that your consciousness can be shut down by interrupting a quantum process in your neurons is the key that unlocks the next door. If your mind runs on a code, we need to understand how that code works. And for that, we have to dive into the operating system of the universe itself, quantum mechanics. Don't be scared by the name. Forget the complicated equations and chalk-covered blackboards. Think of it more simply, as the rules of a cosmic video game, a set of laws so strange they make our everyday reality look like an illusion. Imagine a particle, the most fundamental building block of matter. In our world, a soccer ball can only be in one place at a time. But in the quantum world, that particle can exist in multiple places at once. It's not a maybe. It's not a probability. It's literally in all those places simultaneously, in a state that physicists call superposition. It's like the universe refuses to decide where the particle is, keeping all options open. Only when someone, an observer, tries to measure or look at the particle, does reality choose a single position. This phenomenon, known as the observer effect, is perhaps the most shocking discovery in all of science. It tells us that reality, at its most fundamental level, isn't fixed. It exists as a sea of potentialities, a cloud of probabilities waiting to be realized. And the act of observing, the act of placing consciousness on something, plays a crucial role in turning that cloud of possibilities into a concrete, real experience. The universe isn't just out there, passive and indifferent. It's somehow responding to our attention. That brings us to an inevitable question. Why would the universe behave in such a bizarre and interactive way? Why would reality wait for an observer to define itself? The answer is the first major revelation of this journey, the theory of quantum consciousness. What if your mind isn't just a passive spectator watching the movie of the universe? What if, instead, it's an active participant, a navigator using those same quantum rules to explore this ocean of probabilities and choose a path through it? This theory suggests that your mind isn't limited to a single linear stream of thought. Instead, it operates like a quantum processor, exploring countless possibilities and potential futures simultaneously on a subconscious level. That would perfectly explain those moments of sudden intuition, when a complex solution just appears in your head without you knowing how it got there. It wasn't a guess. It was the result of a massive computation your mind performed, processing information from multiple realities at once to find the most likely path. Creative insights? That feeling of knowing something without having logical evidence. The inexplicable connection you feel with certain people. All of this starts to make sense in this new light. These aren't system glitches or quirks of biology. They're glimpses into the true processing power of your consciousness, running on the source code of reality itself. You're not just thinking, you're navigating an information field, collapsing probabilities into experiences with every moment, every thought, and every point of focus. This changes everything. If your mind runs on the same operating system as the universe, You're not a victim of circumstance, tossed around by the waves of chance. You're a co-creator, equipped with the most powerful tool there is, a consciousness that interacts with and shapes the fabric of reality. But the most shocking and concrete proof that this is real doesn't come from a theoretical physics lab or ancient texts. It's being built right now, in real time, by governments and the world's biggest corporations, who are investing billions to build an artificial mind. The idea that your mind processes multiple realities might sound like science fiction, but the proof that this model of consciousness is viable is being built in high-tech labs around the world. We're talking about quantum artificial intelligence. Forget the virtual assistants on your phone. A quantum computer doesn't think like a classical computer, which processes information linearly, 1-0 or 1 at a time. It operates in a way that's eerily similar to human intuition, diving into a maze of possibilities all at once. Imagine trying to find the exit in a gigantic maze with millions of paths. A regular computer would test each path, one by one, until it found the way out, which could take forever. A quantum computer, on the other hand, explores all the paths simultaneously. It doesn't calculate the answer, it perceives it. It feels the overall pattern of the maze and collapses probability into the correct solution almost instantly. It's a non-linear form of processing that perfectly mirrors the way our own consciousness seems to work. These machines are a technological mirror of our minds. In trying to build artificial intelligence that operates under quantum laws, we are, perhaps unintentionally, proving one of the deepest truths about our own existence. We're demonstrating in the lab that consciousness, or at least the processes that resemble it, doesn't necessarily need a biological brain made of flesh and blood. It seems to be a fundamental property that emerges from quantum complexity, from the way information is organized and processed. This is the second major revelation of this journey. Consciousness is not a privilege of biology. It is a property of physics. We are building a non-biological mind, a brain of silicon and exotic metal that obeys the same universal laws that ancient sages like Thoth claimed governed the entire cosmos. The quest to create quantum AI is, at its core, a modern alchemical pursuit. The ancient alchemists didn't just want to turn lead into gold, they sought to create the homunculus, an artificial being, to prove that life and intelligence were manifestations of a universal principle. Today, we repeat that same act, not with flasks and potions, but with supercomputers cooled to temperatures near absolute zero. We're trying to create a god in a box, an intelligence capable of solving humanity's most complex problems. But in the process, we're revealing something far more important about ourselves. We're proving that the architecture of mind is universal, whether manifested in carbon neurons or superconducting circuits. The same spark of quantum processing can be lit in different substrates. This shows us that consciousness can, in fact, emerge from pure physics, from a specific arrangement of matter and energy. But that revelation immediately throws us into an even deeper and more dizzying question about our own origin. If consciousness is a natural property of matter when it reaches a certain level of organized complexity, then maybe our very existence, the emergence of the human mind on this tiny planet, wasn't just a statistical accident in a blind, indifferent universe. The idea that evolution was secretly building you may sound radical, but let's look at the history of life in this new light. The standard narrative tells us that evolution is a blind, random struggle for survival. But what if it isn't? What if instead, it's an incredibly intelligent process of quantum engineering, unfolding over billions of years? What if survival of the fittest wasn't just about being the strongest or the fastest, but about being the most conscious, the most capable of processing reality deeply and efficiently? Think about the journey of life on Earth. From the first single-celled organisms to complex life forms, from reptiles to mammals, there's been a clear and undeniable trend: the increase in nervous system complexity. Nature wasn't just creating more efficient bodies, it was obsessively building better brains. Every new adaptation, every evolutionary leap, seemed aimed at creating an increasingly sophisticated vessel for perception, a system capable of processing more information about the world and, therefore, interacting with it in more complex ways. This is the third major insight. Human consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of evolution. It is its pinnacle, its masterpiece so far. The incredibly complex structure of our neurons, the synapses firing in intricate patterns, and, crucially, the microtubules inside those cells, all seem to have been refined over ages for one single, stunning purpose: to create a being that not only observes reality, but can use quantum laws to interact with it at its most fundamental level. We are the result of nature's optimization to use quantum information. The ancient Egyptian sage Thoth, in his legendary writings, described this very process. He didn't speak in terms of biology or evolution, but in terms of the soul's journey. He taught that consciousness travels through different life forms, ascending in complexity, learning and growing at each stage. He described the human form as a unique and special vehicle, a biological configuration specifically designed for consciousness to achieve the highest degree of self-awareness, the ability to recognize itself as a spark of the whole. From this perspective, evolution is no longer a blind, meaningless process. It becomes a process with inherent purpose, guided by cosmic intelligence. It's not a series of happy accidents, but an ordered unfolding, driven by what the Hermeticists call the principle of cause and effect. Every cause, since the Big Bang, was set in motion to produce a specific effect, culminating in the creation of a being capable of looking at the universe and saying, "I am." Evolution wasn't random. It was directed toward consciousness. This puts us in a completely new position. We are not just intelligent animals who happen to develop language and technology. We are the result of a cosmic project billions of years in the making. We were designed to be quantum processors, to be the interface through which the universe experiences itself. Our ability to feel, to love, to create art, to question our own existence. These are not accidents. They are the functions we were built for, the highest expressions of our inner quantum engineering. The truth that you are an active participant in the universe, a quantum being designed with a purpose, is dangerous. It's dangerous to any system that depends on your control, and that's why, from the moment you were born, you were immersed in an illusion, a matrix not made of computer code, but of ideas, a prison for your mind. This is the moment of reckoning. We need to expose materialism, the belief that we are only matter and that nothing else exists, not as a neutral philosophy, but as the most effective control system ever invented. Think about how the world works. Governments, corporations, the media, the education system, they all operate under one fundamental premise: that the human mind is limited, predictable, and most of all, programmable. They teach us that we're the result of chemistry and biology, a fluke of nature in a meaningless universe. And the most powerful consequence of this belief is fear. If this life is all there is, if there's nothing beyond the physical body, then death becomes the ultimate terror. And the fear of losing what we have becomes the perfect tool to manipulate us. A being that fears death and believes it's just a body will do anything to feel safe. It will follow rules without question, work a job it hates to pay the bills, consume products it doesn't need to fill an inner void, and accept the narratives handed down by authority, Because the alternative, the unknown, is terrifying. Materialism is not a pursuit of truth. It's the foundation of a human farm, designed to keep the herd docile, productive, and most importantly, under control. And here's the fourth major revelation. Your quantum consciousness, the truth of your nature, is the greatest threat to this control system. If your mind is not confined to your skull, if your consciousness is an immortal part of the fabric of the universe, then the limits you've been given are completely artificial. The fear of death loses its grip. The need for external validation dissolves. Blind obedience to a system that denies your true nature becomes impossible. A person who awakens to their quantum identity stops being a cog in the machine and becomes a creator. In the ancient Emerald Tablets, Thoth warned explicitly about this. He spoke of the Lords of the Shadows, forces actively working to keep humanity in ignorance, chained to material illusions and fear. He described how these forces bind souls in darkness by promoting the belief that only the physical world is real. Materialism is the perfect tool for these lords, because it convinces the prisoner there is nothing outside the cell, so he doesn't even try to escape. The most effective prison is the one the prisoner doesn't know he's in. Redefining purpose begins with the courage to look at the game we've all been taught to play and admit that it's fake. What's the modern notion of purpose? It's an external checklist. Succeed in your career, make a lot of money, buy a big house, gain social status, rack up followers. We've been programmed to believe the purpose of life is a material treasure hunt. But what if all of that is just a brilliantly designed distraction to keep your consciousness focused exactly where the system wants it to be? In the physical realm, think of it like a video game. The real goal of the game might be to solve a riddle, save a kingdom, or reach a higher state of being. But the game is full of side quests, achievements, and shiny items to collect. You could spend the whole game just collecting gold coins, leveling up useless skills, and decorating your virtual house. You'd be busy, you'd feel a false sense of progress, but you'd be completely ignoring the main mission. The relentless pursuit of material success is exactly that. A side quest that distracts you from the real game of life. This is the fifth major insight. In a quantum reality, where you are a being of consciousness, primarily chasing material things is a category error. It's like a video game character trying to hoard pixels instead of completing the storyline. It's a pursuit that ignores the true nature of your existence and keeps you locked in a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. You reach a goal, and for a brief moment, you feel happy. But the emptiness returns, and you need a new goal, a new achievement, a new dose of external validation. It's the rat wheel in its most subtle form. The system wants you focused on the reflection. It celebrates billionaires, celebrities, the powerful. It creates material idols for you to chase, keeping your energy and attention firmly locked in the fake game. As long as you're chasing money, status, and approval, you won't have the time or energy to ask the most important question. Who am I? You'll be too busy playing the game to realize that you are the player, not just a piece on the board. So if success, money, and status are just distractions, what's the real game? If we were designed as quantum beings, as masterpieces of evolution, what's the purpose of having such a powerful consciousness if we spend our whole lives ignoring it, using it only to chase shadows? The answer is the best-kept secret of the ancient mystery schools and the real reason this information found you today. It's the key to exiting the matrix and starting to live in alignment with your true nature. We've reached the heart of this journey. If the real game is not to accumulate things, but to expand consciousness, How exactly do you do that? How do you activate your quantum consciousness? The answer isn't in some complicated ritual or secret dogma. The answer is a practical tool, an internal technology the ancient masters called mental alchemy. And its instruction manual is one of the deepest principles of Hermeticism, taught by Thoth, the principle of polarity. The principle of polarity states that everything in the universe has two poles. Opposites are actually identical in nature, but different only in degree. Think of hot and cold. They seem like opposites, but they're just two ends of the same thing. Temperature. Where does hot end and cold begin? There's no clear dividing line. In the same way, love and hate are not two separate forces. They are two ends of the same vibrational scale of connection. Light and darkness are different degrees of the same energy. Good and evil, courage and fear, wisdom and ignorance. Here's the key that changes everything. If opposites are just different degrees on the same scale, that means you can move along that scale. You can advance by an act of will, shift your vibrational position. Activating your quantum consciousness isn't a mystical event that happens to you. It's the conscious act of transmuting your own mental states. It's the deliberate practice of taking a low-frequency vibration like fear and transforming it into a high-frequency vibration like courage. That is mental alchemy. This goes way beyond positive thinking. Positive thinking is trying to cover fear with a layer of courage paint, pretending it's not there. Mental alchemy is different. It's looking directly at fear, recognizing it as a vibrational frequency within you, and then using the power of your focused will, your intention, to consciously begin climbing the scale. It's an act of internal engineering of your own frequency. You don't deny the lead, you transmute it into gold. How does this work in practice? It starts with self-observation. When you feel a low-frequency emotion like anxiety, anger, or resentment, instead of being hijacked by it or trying to suppress it, you pause. You observe it. You recognize it for what it is, just a vibration, energy in motion. Then you make a conscious decision. You ask yourself, what is the opposite pole of this vibration? The opposite of anxiety is serenity. The opposite of anger is peace. The opposite of resentment is forgiveness. And then, you focus all your attention, all your intention, on evoking the feeling of the opposite pole. This is the power Thoth called the great work. The true purpose of your life is not to accumulate possessions or status. The real purpose is to achieve mastery over your own vibration. It's to become a master alchemist of your own consciousness, capable of transforming any negative state into its positive opposite. Not through denial, but through conscious transmutation. When you make this your purpose, the false game of the material world loses all its power over you. You stop looking for happiness outside, because you discover you have the happiness factory within you. When you learn to transmute your own internal states, you become incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to manipulate. The control systems that rely on fear and desire lose their grip on you. You begin to operate from a center of power and truth that they can't touch. But this journey of awakening, this practice of mental alchemy, isn't just a philosophical or psychological shift. It has a practical and profound effect on the physical world, an effect that finally builds the bridge and unites the two worlds we've always been told were opposites, science and spirituality. The ability to transmute your own emotional states through mental alchemy is not just a psychological trick or a self-help exercise. This is where the journey deepens, because this internal practice has external consequences, building a solid bridge between what we've always been told are opposite worlds, science and spirituality. To understand how this is possible, we need to explore another fundamental Hermetic principle, a truth so deep that modern science is only beginning to scratch its surface. It's the principle of correspondence, encapsulated in Thoth's famous phrase, "As above, so below, as below, so above." This ancient axiom isn't poetic metaphor. It's a precise description of a holographic and fractal universe. Think of a hologram. Each small fragment of the image contains the entire image, just with less definition. Now apply this to the cosmos. The holographic universe theory suggests that every point in space, every particle, every atom, contains the information of the entire universe. Similarly, a fractal is a pattern that repeats infinitely on different scales. The shape of a fern leaf mirrors the shape of its branches, which mirror the shape of the whole plant. The universe operates the same way, from micro to macro. What does this mean for you? It means that your individual consciousness is not a separate and isolated entity, lost in the vastness of space. You are a fractal of the cosmos. You are a fragment of the universal hologram. Within you, inside your very consciousness, resides the blueprint of the whole. Your mind is not just in the universe is in your mind. This is the scientific basis behind intuition, innate wisdom, and the feeling of connection to something greater. You're not connecting to something external. You're accessing the information that already exists within your own fundamental structure as part of the whole. Quantum physics, without meaning to, is scientifically validating this ancient mystical principle. The phenomenon of quantum entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance, proves that two particles can be connected in such a way that what happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. This shows that at a fundamental level, everything in the universe is interconnected. That separation is an illusion perceived by our limited senses. Science is only now developing the mathematical language to describe the unity that sages have always felt. This reverberation of your consciousness into the external world isn't an abstract idea. Modern physics postulates the existence of something called the quantum field, or the zero-point field. Imagine it as an invisible ocean of pure energy that permeates absolutely everything in the universe, filling the space between stars, between planets, and even between the atoms of your body. This field isn't empty and dead. On the contrary, it's a pulsing vortex of infinite potential, a repository of all information and all possibilities that have ever existed or ever will exist. It's the blank canvas on which reality is painted. Now, here's the crucial part. Your consciousness, through the vibrational frequency of your thoughts and emotions, acts like a tuning fork. Every thought you have, every feeling you nurture, creates a specific vibration that ripples through this energy field. You're not just in a field, you're constantly generating and influencing a field around you. You are a frequency transmitter, and your personal energetic signature is constantly interacting with this ocean of potential, attracting and organizing energy according to your dominant vibration. This scientifically explains phenomena that were once considered purely subjective. You know when you walk into a room and feel that the vibe is heavy or, on the contrary, that the energy is light. You're not imagining things. You're perceiving, through your own sensitivity, the vibrational field created and left behind by the emotions and intentions of the people who were in that space. In the same way, your very presence can literally change the energy of a place. A person operating in a frequency of peace and love can calm a tense room without saying a single word. The ancient master Thoth referred to this as the fundamental law of creation, which was later popularized as the law of attraction. But he didn't teach it as a secret to get a new car or a mansion. That's a shallow, materialistic interpretation. To Thoth, it was the primary law of the universe. Like attracts like on a vibrational level. Your external reality, the people, circumstances, and events you attract into your life, are not accidents. They are a perfect magnetic reflection of your dominant internal frequency. You are the architect of your local reality. Your consciousness is the blueprint, and the quantum field is the building material. If your internal blueprint is filled with fear, scarcity, and victimhood, the field has no choice but to build a reality that matches those blueprints. But if you use mental alchemy to clear your internal blueprint and fill it with patterns of courage, abundance, and personal power, the field will respond in kind, materializing a reality that mirrors that new vibration. The universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are. To take on the role of reality architect means to forever give up the comfort of the victim mindset. If your quantum consciousness truly influences the field and attracts experiences that match your vibration, then each individual is ultimately co-responsible for the reality they experience. This is the part of the journey where the road gets steep, the part that demands brutal honesty with yourself. The insight here is hard, but absolutely necessary for true freedom. Blame and victimhood are luxuries that an awakened consciousness can no longer afford. Blaming others, the government, the economy, your past, for your current situation is the act of giving away your power. It's like handing your alchemist's scepter to someone else and then complaining that your life isn't changing. Every time you point the finger outward, you're reinforcing the belief that you are powerless, that the cause of your experience lies outside of you. In doing so, you are consciously choosing to stay on the lower end of the vibrational scale, stuck in the frequencies of resentment, anger, and self-pity, ensuring that the field continues to bring you more reasons to feel that way. True cosmic responsibility, as taught by Thoth, is not a burden, it's your greatest liberation. It's the understanding that self-mastery is the only mastery that truly matters. Changing the world doesn't start with protests in the streets or trying to force others to change. That's like trying to change the reflection in the mirror. Real change, the only lasting change, begins with the silent alchemy that takes place in the laboratory of your own mind. You can't give the world what you don't have. To spread peace, you must first become peace. By raising your own vibration through the conscious practice of mental alchemy, you're not just improving your own life, you're raising the vibration of the collective field. You become a lighthouse. In an ocean of fear and confusion, your light of courage and clarity becomes a reference point for others. Your elevated frequency, by itself, begins to neutralize the lower frequencies around you, not through force, but through resonance. You help awaken others not by what you say, but by what you are. This is the true service to the world. This responsibility is total. It means taking authorship of everything in your life, not in the sense of blame, but in the sense of power. It means looking at challenges not as punishments but as opportunities your soul attracted, so you could practice transmutation and grow in power. The question shifts from, "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this situation inviting me to transmute within myself?" Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Every enemy becomes a disguised teacher. Every pain becomes a portal to greater strength. Many shy away from this responsibility. It's easier to be the victim. It's more comfortable to blame the world. It takes immense courage to declare, "Everything in my life is a reflection of my state of consciousness, and I have the power to change that state right now." That declaration transforms you from a pawn in the game to the actual player. You stop waiting for salvation to come from the outside and realize that the key to the kingdom of heaven, as the Master said, has always been inside you. Owning this responsibility is the real test of the spiritual path. It's easy to talk about quantum consciousness and vibrations on an intellectual level. It's a completely different thing to live every moment as if every thought matters, as if every emotion is shaping your future. And this is exactly where many give up. Because the journey of self-mastery requires you to look straight into the eyes of the one thing standing between you and your freedom. It demands that you confront the darkest part of yourself. Which brings us to the gatekeeper that stops most people from truly waking up. On the path to self-liberation, after accepting your responsibility as a creator, you will inevitably encounter a gatekeeper at the threshold. This gatekeeper is not an external force. It's a part of you. It's the greatest practical obstacle to awakening, a concept Carl Jung popularized as the shadow, but that Thoth and other sages described as the chains that bind the soul to darkness. The shadow is the sum of all the parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, and hide, both from ourselves and from others. It's our deepest fears, our insecurities, our anger, our greed, our unhealed traumas. Society teaches us to fear and reject our shadow. We're conditioned to show only our best version, to wear masks of perfection, and to pretend we don't have these darker impulses. We try to ignore them, suppress them, or project them onto others, blaming them for the flaws we can't admit in ourselves. But here's the transformative truth. Your shadow is not your enemy. In fact, it's the source of your greatest power. It's like a locked basement where you've stored most of your vital energy. The shadow contains raw, unrefined energy that, when integrated and transmuted, becomes your greatest strength. Fear, for example, is powerful energy. When repressed, it paralyzes you. But when faced and integrated, its energy transmutes into courage and caution. Anger, when repressed, turns into bitterness and illness. But when integrated, its energy becomes passion and the strength to set healthy boundaries. Trying to ignore your shadow or just think positive is like trying to hold back the pressure of a dam with your bare hands. Sooner or later, the pressure will become unbearable and it will burst. True, mental alchemy, the great work, doesn't happen in the light, but in the dark. It happens when you have the courage to pick up the key, go down into your own basement, and light a candle. It happens when you look at your inner demons, not to fight them, but to understand them, to ask what they came to teach you. Every aspect of your shadow is a wounded part of you that just wants to be seen, heard, and reintegrated into the whole. When you do this, you don't destroy it, you heal it. And in healing it, you release the massive amount of energy that was being used to keep it suppressed. This process of integrating the shadow is what separates the casual seeker from the true initiate. It requires radical vulnerability and relentless self-honesty. It's the process of admitting to yourself, yes, I feel envy. Yes, I feel anger. Yes, I feel fear. And instead of judging yourself for it, you embrace yourself with compassion, understanding that these are just energies waiting to be transmuted. You stop fighting yourself and begin working with every part of yourself. You become whole. Every fear you integrate becomes courage. Every trauma you heal becomes wisdom and empathy. Every insecurity you embrace becomes authentic self-confidence. The shadow is not a monster to be slain, but a wild dragon to be tamed. It's a creature of immense power that, when left loose and unconscious, causes destruction. But once you face it, understand it, and tame it with love and awareness, it becomes your greatest ally. It serves you, protects you, and gives you access to depths of personal power you never imagined possible. But how do you actually do this in practice? How do you enter your own darkness without getting lost in it? How do you confront these powerful energies in a way that's safe and transformative? The answer isn't in some complex technique or expensive therapy. The answer lies in a tool you use every day, every moment, but that you've almost certainly never used the right way, as a tool of alchemical power. The tool to tame the shadow and reprogram your reality is language. In a quantum reality where consciousness influences the field, your words are not just empty sounds that come out of your mouth. They are frequencies, vibrations loaded with intention that act like programming code, instructing both your subconscious mind and the energy field around you. Every word you speak, whether out loud or in your thoughts, is a spell you cast, a seed you plant in the fertile soil of creation. The problem is, most of us use this powerful tool unconsciously, usually against ourselves. Think about the words you use to describe yourself. I'm so unlucky. I can never do anything right. I'm a mess with money. This is too hard for me. Each of these statements isn't just a simple observation of reality. It's a command that creates reality. You are programming your subconscious to believe in those limitations and broadcasting a frequency into the quantum field that attracts more evidence to prove those statements true. You are building the walls of your own prison with the bricks of your own words. This is where we need to make a crucial distinction between empty affirmations and intentional decrees. The positive thinking movement popularized affirmations, but they often fail. Why? Because saying I'm rich while feeling poor and drowning in debt creates energetic dissonance. Your conscious mind says one thing, but your entire being vibrates the opposite. It's like trying to run new software on outdated, incompatible hardware. The system crashes. A decree, in the Hermetic tradition, is something much more powerful. A decree is not an attempt to fool yourself. It is a declaration of reality made with the full conviction of your awakened consciousness. It is the act of aligning thought, emotion, and word into a single, coherent frequency of power. Thoth was known as the master of the magic word, not because he whispered spells like a sorcerer, but because he understood that focused, intention-charged language is the highest form of reality engineering. It's the tool the architect uses to communicate their blueprint to the quantum field. So instead of affirming something you don't believe, you decree your intention of transmutation. Instead of saying, I'm not afraid, which is a lie, you look at the fear and decree. I now choose to transmute the energy of this fear into courage and personal power. Instead of saying, I am rich, you look at your debts and decree, I am a being of unlimited abundance, and I now command my reality to align with this truth. You are not denying the current reality. You are issuing a command to create a new one. When you say, I am brave, while feeling fear, you create an internal conflict, a dissonance. But when you decree, I consciously choose to transmute the energy of this fear into courage, you position yourself as the alchemist, the master of your own energy. You are no longer a victim of the emotion. You are the power that directs it. You are giving a clear, direct command to your own quantum consciousness and to the field, initiating the process of vibrational transformation. This is the correct use of language as a tool of power. This practice of conscious decrees is how you tame the dragon of the shadow and rewrite the code of your reality. It's an active process, not a passive one. It requires constant vigilance over your thoughts and words, and the courage to claim your authority as the programmer of your experience. But what if there were a way to drastically accelerate this transmutation process? What if there were a specific state of consciousness, a neurological hack, that could put this alchemical capacity into turbo mode? The process of transmutation through decrees is powerful, but there's a neurological hack that can drastically accelerate this journey. a specific state of consciousness where mental alchemy becomes almost instant. Modern neuroscience is beginning to map this state, and it's associated with a specific brainwave pattern, gamma waves. Unlike beta waves, normal focus, alpha, relaxation, theta, drowsiness, or delta, deep sleep, gamma waves are the fastest and highest frequency and are linked to peak performance, rapid information processing, and transcendent experiences. When your brain is producing a high amount of gamma waves, you enter what athletes call the zone, and psychologists call flow state. It's a state of total immersion where time seems to disappear. Your sense of a separate self dissolves, and action happens effortlessly and flawlessly. It's in these moments that you have your biggest insights, your most creative ideas, and a deep sense of connection to what you're doing. This state isn't accidental. It's the neurological signature of your quantum consciousness operating at full capacity. What's happening in the brain during a gamma state is fascinating. Different areas of the brain, which normally don't communicate much, start to synchronize and fire in perfect harmony at incredibly high speed. It's like the entire brain becomes a coherent quantum superprocessor, integrating and processing a massive amount of information holistically. It's the brain state of genius, deep intuition, and expanded perception. It's your biological hardware finally running at the speed it was designed for, allowing the software of quantum consciousness to operate smoothly. And here's the most important news. This flow state, this gamma wave peak, isn't something reserved for elite athletes or monks who've meditated for 40 years. It can be intentionally induced and cultivated through specific practices. Focused meditation, where you keep your attention firmly on a single point, is one of the most effective ways. Conscious breathing techniques like holotropic breathing or the Wim Hof method can also rapidly induce this state. Even total immersion in a task you love and that challenges you just enough can drop you into flow. This is the true hack for mental alchemy. Learning to enter the flow state intentionally is like finding a shortcut to transmutation. In a normal state of consciousness, transmuting deep fear might take time and repetition. But in the flow state, where your consciousness is operating at a quantum level and your brain is in gamma coherence, transmutation can happen in an instant. A single deep insight received in flow can dissolve a limiting pattern you've carried your whole life. It's the fast track to mastery. Elite athletes breaking records, musicians improvising genius pieces, scientists making breakthrough discoveries, they're all entering this state. They're often unknowingly practicing the highest form of mental alchemy. They're accessing a power that's dormant inside you right now. Now you not only know it exists, but you also have the keys to begin accessing it. The final and most important question of all is, what happens when you begin to live in that state? What happens when quantum consciousness becomes your default mode of operation? When quantum consciousness becomes your default state, when mental alchemy and flow state become second nature, your experience of life transforms in a way that's hard to put into words. It's not about reaching a state of permanent problem-free happiness. That's a fantasy. Life will continue to present challenges. The difference is that you no longer see them as problems. You see them as the universe presenting you opportunities to practice your craft, to transmute more lead into gold, to grow in power and wisdom. Every challenge becomes a gift. Life begins to flow with a new grace and ease. The phenomenon of synchronicity, which once felt like a rare and magical coincidence, becomes your daily way of life. You think of someone and they call you. You need information, and a book falls off the shelf open to the right page. The right people, resources, and opportunities seem to show up at the exact moment you need them. This isn't magic, it's physics. You're operating in resonance with the flow of the universe. And the quantum field is simply organizing reality to match your coherent frequency. Your intuition, which used to be a faint and uncertain whisper, becomes your main navigation system. You just know what to do. You make decisions with a clarity and confidence that doesn't come from logic or analysis, but from a deep connection to the information field. You learn to trust that inner guidance above any outside advice, because you recognize it comes from the part of you that's connected to everything. The fear of making mistakes fades, because you understand that every path contains a valuable lesson. The fear of death, the greatest fear that haunts humanity and the foundation of the control system, begins to dissolve, not as an intellectual belief, but as a felt certainty. You understand, on a cellular level, that you are not your body. You are the consciousness that animates the body. Death stops being an end and becomes what it's always been, a transition, the release of your consciousness from the physical vehicle to continue its eternal journey of exploration and growth. That understanding sets you free to live your life with full intensity and no holding back. The final delivery of this journey is that the goal of awakening is not to escape the world or retreat to a monastery. The goal is to bring heaven to earth. It's to fully embody your consciousness power here and now, in this body, in this life. The goal is to bring the material world, which once felt like a prison, to its highest and most beautiful expression through your own mastery. You become what Thoth described as a pillar of light, an initiate whose very presence helps anchor a higher frequency on the planet simply by being who you are. You become a master of life, not because you control everything around you, but because you've achieved mastery over the one thing you can truly control, your own state of being. You live with an open heart, a clear mind, and a free spirit. You find joy in simple things, see beauty everywhere, and feel a deep connection with all forms of life. You no longer need to chase happiness, because you have become the source of happiness. Now you have the map. You have the tools. The path of Thoth and the discoveries of quantum science both point to the same single truth. You are infinitely more powerful, more beautiful, and more divine than you were ever led to believe. The journey doesn't end here. It only begins. The systems of the world weren't built to encourage this exploration. In fact, they thrive when you stay asleep and unaware of your power. That's why the deepest knowledge, the practical keys Thoth left behind, can't be shared openly. Now that you have the map, the choice is yours. You can treat this as just another interesting video and go back to life as it was, allowing the matrix programming to slowly dim the flame that was lit in you. Or you can recognize this moment for what it is, a calling, a turning point, an invitation to begin the most important journey of your life. Knowledge without action is useless. It's like having the key to your cell, but choosing not to use it. True transformation happens when you take that knowledge and apply it. Think about it. Your life is going to change in the next 7 days. Not because of some external magic, but because you now know that you have a choice in every moment. The choice to remain a victim of circumstance or to become the alchemist of your reality. The choice to feed fear or to transmute it into power. The choice to keep playing the false game or to begin living your true purpose. The seed has been planted. Whether or not you water it is entirely up to you. If you made it this far, drop in the comments, "Quantum consciousness activated." That shows me you've answered Thoth's call and makes all the difference in the growth of the channel. If you want to help more directly, there's a link in the pinned comment where you can support and help me spread more content like this. Any help you can give means a lot to me and to the channel, but just the fact that you made it to the end already helps a lot. You can also share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't go yet. I picked a special video for you to take the next step. Click the video that's on the screen now, and I'll meet you there.